Hey guys, what's up? It's Charlie here, and today we're going to be looking at 9 criminals who make Bill Gates look poor. We all know that Bill Gates is very rich, but compared to these guys, he's nothing special. Everyone says crime doesn't pay, but if you ask these 9 people, they may tell you otherwise. Now, granted, many of these people have been captured or worse, but some of them are still out and about today and are making so much money. Before we get into it, why not subscribe and press the notification bell too. Coming in at number 10, we have Dawood Ibrahim. So chances are, if you're in the West, you haven't heard of this man. But if you live in India, then you almost definitely have, as he's India's most well-known criminal. Right now, he's 62 years old and has a net worth of $7 billion. However, his underworld company, D Company, has a net worth of $60 billion. Now, you may be asking, what crimes has this criminal done to amass so much wealth? Well, the answer is just about anything under the sun. He first made a lot of money by arranging to blow a load of things up in Mumbai. This happened in 2008 and made him a very well-known criminal. He also runs an international illegal betting syndicate. He's known for match-fixing things such as the Indian Premier League and also various Pakistani cricket matches. He's also one of the FBI's most wanted criminals. Dawood also controls 70% of India's $1 billion piracy market. He's known for ripping off and extorting from Bollywood producers. I wonder if he's had any contact with T-Series before. This man also does things like moving illegal substances and counterfeit money around the world. So all of these crimes have made him very well known and $7 billion personally. But as I said, his organization D Company is worth nearly $60 billion. And believe it or not, he's still able to evade the law. He's 62 years old and has never been arrested. He's been wanted since the 1980s, so how does he evade the law? Well, he travels the world under 21 different names. And it's said he pays off various politicians and police to allow him to roam freely. Next up, we have the Rodriguez Oruela brothers. So these brothers were incredibly rich and are from Colombia. Pablo Escobar was known for running his Colombian cartel a little on the crazy side, but the Rodriguez brothers ran their business like a Fortune 500 company. After the fall of Pablo Escobar, these two brothers became the largest narco-traffickers in the world. The brothers Gilberto and Miguel were leaders of the Cali cartel in Colombia. They worked with Chepe Santa Cruz and Helmer Pacho Herrera. They were actually very respected businessmen and they had ties to the most powerful people in Colombia. They never talked about their life as leaders of the Cali cartel. Instead, they focused on their legit businesses, which were a front for their narco business. They ran large pharmaceutical companies, owned a soccer team, and a bank. They were actually working with the government to retire and give up their narco business. But when the American DEA got involved, things got turned upside down for these brothers. They were hunted down by the DEA and search block of Colombia and were arrested. Their associates, Chepe Santa Cruz and Helmer Pacho Herrera, were both taken out. And eventually the brothers were extradited to the USA. They will now spend the rest of their lives in a North Carolina medium security prison. But while they were out and free, they were able to amass over $7 billion in assets. Next up is Joaquim El Chapo Guzman Loera. So who doesn't know El Chapo? For a long time, El Chapo was enemy number 1 of the USA and Mexico. El Chapo was the leader of the Sinaloa cartel, the largest cartel in Mexico. He has a personal net worth of around $6 billion. He was first captured in 1993 but escaped in a laundry cart. He was then captured again in 2014 but escaped using a tunnel. Eventually he was captured in 2016 and this time taken to the USA so he couldn't escape. Right now he's in a maximum security prison in New York and his trial is going on right now. His trial is still ongoing but he will likely spend the rest of his life in prison. He lived it up while he was free, going to Switzerland for age-reducing surgeries. His sons also like to document their lavish lifestyle on Instagram. And from the looks of their Instagram, it's safe to say El Chapo definitely did make the $6 billion everyone's talking about. El Chapo is also known for being one of the only narcos on the Forbes list, number 701. Next up is Ismael Sambda Garcia. So we just looked at El Chapo and I explained how he was leader of the Sinaloa cartel. Well, a few weeks ago in El Chapo's ongoing trial, something interesting came about. They said El Chapo isn't even the main leader of the Sinaloa cartel. Instead, that falls on a guy named Ismael El Mayo Sambda Garcia. This man is 70 years old and is now the leader of the Sinaloa cartel. Amazingly though, he's never been arrested and that's because he apparently paid off 2 Mexican presidents. He's also used plastic surgery to evade the law, and he also says he never sleeps at the same place twice. He's said to have a net worth of around $6 billion, and the reward for his capture is around $6 million US. While El Chapo was enemy number 1, he was able to stay in the shadows. But now that El Chapo's caught, Ismael Sambda Garcia is enemy number 1. But seeing as he's been able to evade the law for so long, perhaps he will for the rest of his life. Next up we have Khunsa. So Khunsa was a warlord and one of the richest criminals ever from Burma. He was later known as the Opium King as he became a narco-trafficker operating out of Myanmar. He was known for his gigantic private army of thousands of men, and the Thai and Burmese governments and the DEA had a tough time getting this guy. Eventually he retired by himself without being captured, and in 2007 he passed away due to high blood pressure. However, he had a net worth of $5 billion at his peak. He's also known for having a very luxurious lifestyle and being very ruthless when it comes to his army. Next up is Pablo Escobar. So everyone knows Pablo Escobar, but in case you don't, he is the largest narco-trafficker of all time. He is from Colombia and founded the Medellin cartel. He supplied over 80% of the narcotics in the USA during the 1980s. He had a net worth of over $30 billion, which is absolutely insane. He was one of the top 10 richest men in the world at that time. Eventually he did negotiate surrender with the Colombian government. He was able to build his own prison named La Catedral. This was known as a castle and police were not allowed to go within 2 miles of it. However, he broke some rules by ending the lives of his enemies within his own prison. The Colombian government then chased him down and he had to live in hiding for many years. Eventually in 1993 he was taken out by the DEA and search block. But he will be forever remembered as the largest narco-trafficker of all time. And I can't believe he really amassed $30 billion of wealth when he came from so little. But that doesn't mean he was a good guy. He was actually responsible for taking tens of thousands of lives. Next up is Priscilla de Blanco. So Priscilla de Blanco is the only woman on this list. But at the same time, she's one of the scariest people on this list. She is nicknamed the Black Widow. That is because every single person she slept with, she would later take their life. She made over $2 billion from narco-trafficking into the USA. She was known as Pablo Escobar's woman in the USA. She's from Medellin, Colombia and was part of the Medellin cartel. A few years after the Medellin cartel collapsed, Blanco was imprisoned. Eventually, she was released in 2004 and deported back to Medellin, Colombia. She roamed freely for many years, but in 2012 she was taken out. It's not known who took her out or why, but seeing as she did have many enemies who hold grudges, we really don't know. Either way, she's incredibly well known even today and had a net worth of $2 billion. At the time, this made her one of the richest women in the world. And as well as the Black Widow, her nickname was also Queen of Narco-Trafficking. Next up is Al Capone. So Al Capone is one of the biggest American gangsters of all time. He made his money working in alcohol smuggling during Prohibition in the United States. Now, you may think taking alcohol into the USA isn't a bad thing, but it's the way Al Capone ran his business which is what made him so bad. He wouldn't think twice about taking people's life and doing terrible things to innocent children and families. But his ruthlessness made him $1.3 billion. He did pretty well for quite some time until he was eventually arrested for tax evasion. That's right, they couldn't get him for any major crime, so instead they just booked him for tax evasion. He was nicknamed Scarface because of the scar on his face. Eventually, after he was arrested, he was taken to Alcatraz prison in San Francisco. This is a prison on an island which is very difficult to escape from. In 1946, he was released from prison, and in 1947, he passed away. Next up is Amado Carrillo Fuentes. So this man is a Mexican narco-trafficker who is one of the world's richest. He was the leader of the Juarez cartel of Mexico and he made over $25 billion. That's right, he actually got close to beating Pablo Escobar. He was known as the Lord of the Skies as he used planes to narco-traffic into the USA. But he had a problem. He had all this money, but he couldn't enjoy it. Everywhere he went, he had enemies and the police trying to search for him. So one day he decided to get plastic surgery to get the feds off his back. However, his plastic surgery was botched and Amado ended up passing away. It's pretty ironic this guy got plastic surgery to try and not be taken out by the cops or enemies. But instead, it's the plastic surgery that ended up taking his life. Either way, with a net worth of $28 billion, he is one of the most successful narco-traffickers of all time. Check out the poll in the top right corner to vote for the craziest rich criminal on this list. I think it's Dawood Ibrahim, as not many people know much about that guy. If you guys want some amazing DIY videos, check out my second channel. There'll be a link to that on screen in a moment. But as always, thanks for watching. Check out some more videos on screen right now. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to Top 10s.